So we are well positioned. You enter this moment with a lot of good cards to play. But we face serious threats. Terrorist networks slaughter the innocent and plot attacks against our nation. Civil wars like in Iraq tear countries apart and create humanitarian catastrophes and havens for terrorists. Russian aggression against Ukraine, disputes in the South China Sea, these are testing an international order that we built. Where the sovereignty of nations is respected and all nations abide by the same rules. Nuclear weapons, as in North Korea, and the specter of nuclear terrorism still threaten us all. So how to meet these threats while also seizing the incredible opportunities of this moment in history? That's going to be your challenge, the challenge of your generation. Which leads me to a second lesson. As we navigate this complex world, America cannot shirk the mantle of leadership. We can't be isolationist. It's not possible in this globalized, interconnected world. In these uncertain times, it's tempting sometimes to pull back and try to wash our hands of conflicts that seem intractable, let other countries fend for themselves. But history teaches us, from Pearl Harbor to 9/11, that oceans alone cannot protect us. Hateful ideologies can spark terror from Boston to San Bernardino. In a global economy, it's not possible to stop trading goods and services with other countries. Weak public health systems on the other side of the world. Allow diseases to develop that end up reaching our shores. So we cannot turn inward. We cannot give in to isolationism. That's a false. Comfort. Allowing problems to fester over there makes us less secure here. So, as Americans, we have to keep leading and working with others too. Build the security and prosperity and justice we want in the world. By the way, one of the most effective ways to lead and work with others is through treaties that advance our interests. Lately, there's been a mindset in Congress that just about any international treaty is somehow a violation of American sovereignty. And so the Senate almost never approves treaties anymore. They voted down a treaty to protect disabled Americans, including our veterans. While Senator and World War II veteran Bob Dole was sitting right there in the Senate chambers in a wheelchair. We don't always realize it, but treaties help make a lot of things in our lives. Possible that we take for granted, from international phone calls to mail. Those are good things. Those are not a threat to our sovereignty. I think we can all agree on that. But also, from NATO to treaties controlling nuclear weapons, treaties help keep us safe. So if we're truly concerned about China's actions in the South China Sea, for example, the Senate should help strengthen our case by approving the Law of the Sea Convention, as our military leaders have urged. And by the way, these treaties are not a new thing. The power to make treaties is written into our Constitution. Our founding fathers ratified lots of treaties. So it's time for the Senate to do its job and help us advance American leadership, rather than undermine it. A part of the reason this is so important is because the United States remains the one indisputable nation in world affairs. I say this all the time. After 8 years, I have not gone to an international conference, summit. Meeting where we were not the ones who made the agenda possible even if we weren't hosting it. We have more alliances with other countries than anybody else. And they're the foundation of global stability and prosperity. On just about every issue, the world looks to us to set the agenda. When there's a problem around the world, they do not call Beijing or Moscow, they call us. And we lead not by dictating to other nations, but by working with them as partners. By treating other countries and their peoples with respect, not by lecturing them. This isn't just the right thing to do. It's in our self-interest. It makes countries more likely to work with us, and, ultimately, it makes us more secure. So we need smart, steady, principled American leadership. And part of leading wisely is seeing threats clearly. Remember Ebola? That was a serious threat, and we took it seriously. But in the midst of it, there was hysteria. Flights must be banned. Quarantine citizens. These were actual. Quotes. Seal the border. And my favorite, remove Obama, or millions of Americans die. That's an actual quote. The thing is, when we panic, we don't make good decisions. So, with Ebola, instead of responding with fear, we responded with facts and responded with science and organization. And thanks to a coordinated global response enabled by the American military and our medical workers who got in there first, we stopped the spread of Ebola in West Africa and saved countless lives, and protected ourselves. So we've got to engage with the world. We can't pull back. Of course, leading wisely also means resisting the temptation. To intervene militarily every time there's a problem or crisis in the world. History is littered with the ruins of empires and nations that overextended themselves. Draining their power and influence. And so we have to chart a smarter path. As we saw in Vietnam and the Iraq War, oftentimes the greatest damage to American credibility comes when we overreach. When we don't think through the consequences of all of our actions. And so we have to learn from our history. And that also means we're doing right by our men and women in uniform. So, cadets, in your positions of leadership, you will be called upon to sustain this balance, to be hard-headed and big-hearted. Guided by realism and idealism, even when these forces are sometimes at odds. We've got to have the realism to see the world as it is, where sometimes uncomfortable compromises are necessary. Where we have the humility to recognize that there are limits to what even a nation as powerful as ours can do. That there may be wars we cannot always stop right away, or lives we cannot save. But we also need the idealism that sees the world as it ought to be, a commitment to the universal values. Of democracy and equality and human rights, and a willingness to stand up for them around the world, not just when it's easy. But when it's hard. Because that's who we are, and that's American leadership. At times, ensuring our security requires the use of military force. That's the third lesson I want to discuss. As Commander-in-Chief, I have not hesitated to use force. Unilaterally where necessary, to protect the American people. Thanks to our military, intelligence and counterterrorism professionals, bin Laden is gone. Anwar al-Awlaki, a leader of the Al-Qaeda affiliate in Yemen, is gone. Ahmed Abdi Godane, the Al-Qaeda leader in Somalia, he's gone. Ahmed Abu Khattala, accused in the attacks in Benghazi, captured. Mohammed Mansour, the leader of the Taliban, gone. All gone. Abu Dhaud, a leader of their chemical weapons program, captured. The list goes on. Because if you target Americans, we will find you and justice will be done, and we will defend our nation. But even as we celebrate the courage of our troops who serve in war, even where we do not hesitate to act on behalf of our security, we should never celebrate war itself. War, no matter how noble our intentions may be, promises agony and tragedy. And no one knows this more than those who fight those wars are wounded warriors who bear the scars. Seen and unseen, are veterans, who remember their fallen comrades. Are Gold Star families, whose hearts ache with pride and with loss. We have a solemn responsibility to these Americans who sacrifice in our name. We have a responsibility to be guided by intelligence, and not ideology, and to never rush into war. And to explore other options first. Because sending our troops into harm's way must always be a last resort. And sometimes those decisions are tough. I know, for example, that my decision not to conduct strikes against Syria. After it used chemical weapons was controversial among some in Washington. But because we seized a diplomatic option, backed by our threat of force. Nations came together and we accomplished far more than military strikes ever could. Have all of Syria's declared chemical weapons were successfully removed. And in acting militarily, we have a responsibility, whenever possible, to build coalitions and partnerships. There are times where we have to do it alone. But on a whole lot of global problems. The United States shouldn't bear the entire burden of global security by itself. Others have to step up. That's why, as we assist and train Afghan forces, we're part of a 39-nation coalition. Our coalition against ISIL includes 66 partners, including Arab nations. We've learned that often the best way to defeat terrorists is not by sending large Numbers of American ground forces to occupy and patrol foreign cities and towns. It's better to train and build up local partners there, the ones who have to stabilize their own countries over the long term,